Welcome back to the Go AI podcast. I'm so excited to have Chief Marketing and Sales Officer of United Direct Solutions, Dayna Neumann, on today's show. Dayna, please tell us a little bit about you and your journey to Chief Marketing Officer.
Oh my gosh. Hi, Jenna.
Hi.
So good to see you.
So good to
Thank
see
you
you.
for having me. And Connor, we will recognize you as well.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, where to begin? As a young person, I did not, put in my diary, someday I'll be Chief Sales and Marketing Officer. But what I did know early on in my higher education and my early days working is that connecting with people and sharing ideas and being a driver of growth and change was what really lit me up. My mom tells this story. I was in DC. I was working with National Geographic, and I called her after a client meeting, and I was like, Mom, I found out what I'm really good at. Going to lunch. And she left. It was mostly for comic relief, but the heart of it was really that it was about connecting with people and figuring out ways that we could discuss big ideas and share what makes people tick and create relationships. And so from that beginning and those sort of like formative days, finding my way to United Direct Solutions, they were a client of mine when I had a marketing agency. They were doing some succession planning, and I was like, that sounds really fun to like dig into transforming a sales team and seeing what was next for a manufacturing company that was looking to expand into digital and find new ways to help their customers connect with their best customers. And that's all the kind of stuff that really lights me up.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell. And I don't know if anybody watches like Curb Your Enthusiasm or like Seinfeld, but
Yes.
I do feel that you're a good middler, where if you have a dinner party, you're putting Dayna Neumann in the center because she will connect everybody into the conversation. And so you're
Thank you.
very good at that. And you have an entrepreneurial mindset. As you said,
Yeah.
you've had a marketing agency, you were a consultant. That's how you are here. So lots of adventures have led you to this.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
what has been your adventure with AI thus far?
Oh, AI. She's such a saucy minx. I love her.
She is saucy.
Sometimes she gets a little spicy. So gosh, okay, let's see. My journey with AI. I mean, Alexa's been a sidekick for a minute.
Okay.
And it's funny because when I think about think about like large language models and like getting behind the scenes of AI, that was really my first blush with AI in the home or just like an average day with AI. And it felt so natural. And I think, as I've gotten more on like my techie brain side of understanding what's really going on with AI, it helps me to put together the ways that that we as an organization at UDS can utilize some of that same thinking with the way that large language models are organized. Are there ways that we could organize our data to become more efficient internally? And then, of course, all of the tools that we have that are exposed to the client side or that are a little more, client facing, like what we would all experience with an Alexa device.
Sure.
And so we've implemented Gong, AI note taker. That has been absolutely transformational from a sales enablement perspective. And I could go on and on and on. If you're interested
We will
in
ask
that.
follow-up questions
Okay,
for sure.
okay, good. We're using Crystal Knows, which is, it uses the DISC,
Your
like
disc
personality
profile.
profiling, and it allows you to have better insights prior to calls and meetings, either with internal or external stakeholders. And so it just kind of gives us a leg up on planning how we're going to present information to a client or a prospect, what might be getting in the way. It can write for you prompts and things of that nature. And then my own personal journey, I started using Coursive app.
Ooh.
Have you guys ever used it?
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I don't know who owns it or what, but it feels like Duolingo.
Oh, I love Duolingo.
Okay, so it has a really similar pacing to it that with Duolingo. And for me, what I wanted to do is become as close to an expert in prompt engineering as possible. And so I've been using Coursive to help me have more of a process-oriented approach to becoming as expert as possible in prompt engineering, because I felt like that would be not only a skill for me, but a skill that I could help my team utilize to be as efficient as possible with AI, with, whether we're using ChatGPT or understanding Jasper. And
Yep. You got to know what to
Mhm.
ask. I mean, what are we prompting it?
What
yeah.
skills have you been building through the app that you think are important for business owners to know?
Yes. Okay, so I'm in the Chat GPT section. I'm
Mhm.
also going to look at Jasper and a couple of others. I'm still kind of early days,
Mhm.
but with the prompt engineering, what I've learned is if I understand large language model and where, the lake of information that we're tapped into, I have to coach ChatGPT. In this case, that's what I'm using.
Mm.
So through my prompting, I have to coach her on getting to a final destination. And so it reframes the way that I organize my prompt. So it's like I tell her things like, you are the chief sales and marketing officer.
Here's the perspective you need to
Yep.
have. Yes.
As an example, one of the things that I might say to her is, "You're the chief sales and marketing officer at a printing and digital communications company. What risks are there with current tariff policy?" And then my follow up would be like, "Oh, thank you. And are you concerned about what's volatility in the stock market? Because that's like what's going on this week." And so I wanted to cover my bases and make sure, was I needing to think about something slightly differently? And so she's like a thought partner next to me. And then there's all kinds of other ways that I've learned to organize my prompts, or to think about them in a way that gets me more of the information that I'm looking for specifically. And so if it's too general, then
Yeah.
it's just, I'm going to get a general response.
It's what you put in.
Yes.
Whatever you put in, you're going to get out.
And it's the building of the story into a narrowing of the information that I want. Does that answer your question, Connor?
I think so.
Okay.
And, it's just going to get better and better as they're calling them reasoning models. That
Yes.
basically it goes beyond just the, you know, you give us a prompt and we're just going to predict based on your prompt what words to put together.
Mhm.
Instead, it's going to be, it's going to reason through based on your prompt. It's going to create like these little, like, hey, I need to reason through this problem and this problem and that problem to create the response. And it might take a little longer, but it's going to get much more just in depth with the responses. So
Mhm.
prompt engineering is just going to get more and more important.
Yes. Yes.
Well, and speaking of, prompt engineering, you had mentioned Gong AI.
Mhm.
Talk to us because, again, I think there's a lot of people that have been on the podcast or listeners that have said, hey, I have a sales organization. They're using ChatGPT. They're using a note taker, but it's a lot of information. And at the end of the day, what are you doing with it? So tell us how the Gong has helped you all organize the data and then make better decisions.
Oh my gosh, so many ways. It's still relatively early days for us.
Okay.
But in the almost 3 months that we've been using the tool, oh my gosh. Okay, so as a sales leader, it has helped me to understand across the board with the sales team. So we have 7 people who are actively selling within the organization, who are also using Gong. And so we sell nationally. So the vast majority of our meetings are happening through Teams. For us, we
Okay.
use Teams
Digital.
platform. And so so for us, I would say it's capturing maybe 75% of deal flow
Oh my God.
for us. So it's a big deal. And I would say within reason, 98% of first meetings are happening in a web format.
Okay.
So those are really critical times for us to have in the sales funnel, that first meeting, and then like demos of our products and services is the second big moment for us. And those are typically about 90% happening within that web environment. And so that allows me to have insight across the whole team of where are they getting stuck, or more importantly, what's working really well, so that we can grab that information and share it with the whole team. I can create libraries. Everybody can create libraries libraries for themselves.
Okay.
And then I create a company library where I curate like the best of the best from the team and then socialize it for not just the sales team, but also the entire organization. So you can have licenses that are like listener only.
Oh.
And so they can listen and interact, meaning they can leave comments, they can score. So I can create scorecards.
Like score the conversation.
Correct.
Oh,
Correct. So
okay.
I can score, which is one thing. Peer to peer can score. And then leadership or other departments. So think like your client services group or your operations group. So they're all learning the language of sales, right? To have that entrepreneurial mindset.
Yep.
And then also they're learning how to move conversations through the life cycle for the client because oftentimes our client service people are doing just as much selling.
Sure.
You
No,
know?
that makes sense.
It's
Yeah.
a little more for them. It can happen more spontaneously because they're on a call or they're asking questions with a client. And it's very subtle, and so we want to make sure that they're learning right along with the rest of the organization.
So has it helped you mostly with not just efficiency, but then being able to close like that feedback loop
Yes.
of, okay, like sharing, hey, these were wins. Look at this conversation, how to learn from
Mm-hmm.
this one person that did a presentation or a demo. Now the whole team can have access to,
Yes.
okay.
And then when
That
you get
makes
to a
sense.
critical mass, so similar to other large language models that we're familiar with, you have to get to a critical mass of 500 calls
Oh,
in order to utilize more of an AI feature that shows you all of your participants and then it breaks down all of their calls and kind of rates them to a standard. And it tells you like these people they excel at maybe like customer pain point resolution. And then these people are the best at hitting the key points that I've established as the like the sales script, right?
yeah.
And so you want to make sure you hit these 5 indices in the sales script. And so these people are doing that at a higher frequency than the other people. So then you start to see across the board, okay, here are like these folks really need to train those folks up on this feature. And then
That's
those
cool.
ones can help there. Or for me, I can focus in, hey, you're struggling when the client challenges you here. So here's some content, Joe's doing it exceptionally well, and so is Beth. So I want you to watch these snippets of how they did that. And then also you and I are going to train up and coach on those very specific areas. And so as a sales leader, it like gives me a laser pointer.
Yeah. I'm like, this is like optimizing your sales team too and
is.
coaching. I mean, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
And then I can bubble some of that up to the rest of the leadership team so they can have a better understanding of like what's really happening inside the funnel because all of that work is now happening inside the funnel. And it can oftentimes like just all you're getting is your information from your CRM.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can see, oh, we've got this many opportunities at this position in the sales funnel. This gives us like serious insight into, yeah, that 75% likelihood of closing. We have more data to support that.
That's pretty cool.
And so it allows me as the representative of sales and marketing to the rest of the leadership team, hey, I have even more data to support these assumptions or these metrics that we never had before.
So again, your entrepreneurial mindset. So I know you and you love solutions, you're positive, you think big, and you're not fearful to go after something and get curious. Was the whole organization like that? Or from a sales perspective, I mean, this is pretty daunting if you aren't used to technology and now all of a sudden you have these tools, which is great at your disposal. How did you, or were there any I guess, was there fear related to implementing this within the organization?
So it was positioned originally, and if anybody's interested in if you're going to implement something like this worked for us. The sales team was brought in very early on, and I talked to them for the year, almost the year prior to choosing Gong or going through the process of vetting
Okay.
an AI solution. It was something that they had asked for because I had brought it up as an option, like, hey, this exists in the world. And for you all, the big highlight is it will help you to be an active participant in these calls because it's taking notes for you.
Mhm.
And so when Gong is there riding alongside, you can let go of that responsibility of taking notes and thinking about the receiving of the information, processing it, translating it, and then offering up a solution or creating that next question to move the deal forward. That's a
Okay.
lot of responsibility
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
at the same time. And because it takes notes for you, synthesizes all of it, and then serves up to the salesperson the synopsis, the listing, it'll automatically, if you want it to, generate the response email as a starting point.
So it
'Cause I
does
think
the
the great
follow-up email too.
Exactly. So it's like it speeds it up, and it also creates a higher level of accuracy for them, and it creates that same kind of accountability. So there's speed, accountability. There's all the things that the sales team. It was a lot of value add for them right out of the gates, and
Sure.
they were like, yes, please. So we had buy-in early on, and then when we did some of the testing and we tried on some to see for fit, they were all a part of those, like, 1 month trial periods, stuff like that.
It
And they
wasn't just
loved it.
you selling to
No,
them.
it
It was,
wasn't
hey, this
me,
is a
like,
group. This is a team
yeah,
effort here.
yes. And there was a tiny little bit after it was already implemented and everyone was really excited. And I thought, wow, this is great. No one said, wait a second, that seems like Big Brother looking over, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, are they, is someone going to say that? And it did eventually come up of an understanding of, can you turn it on and off, or when would I, and that kind of thing. But there's so much upside value to them to
Mhm.
use it. It negates all of the potential kind of ill will that could come from that. And now that we have company libraries and we're sharing wins, primarily sharing wins,
Mhm.
they're totally bought in. It's really great. And eventually we're going to get to, like, superstar status. But for right now, I would say, we're still like JV players, but we're going to be varsity real soon.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean,
Real
you're only a
soon.
couple months in. Yeah, you're fine. You're on your way there.
We are.
In implementing AI, what were some challenges that you ran into early on where I'm thinking for business owners watching or listening, where you're like, oh, I kind of wish I knew this going in?
It's not cheap. So I kind like, we knew that going in to some extent, but making the decision around, because, like, there was so much enthusiasm right out of the gates because everybody was like, I'm sorry, excuse me. You mean I can I can be totally 100% focused on what the client is saying because this thing is going to ride alongside me. This is amazing. Thank you for giving me the assistant
It's your Alexa.
I always wanted, right? And then we were like, well, not everybody's going to get the recording version, right? Because it definitely is an investment. And so we had to make some strategic decisions about who needed the recording functionality versus the listening functionality. And so once we got through some of that, that was an unforeseen challenge in implementation, was kind of the hype around, and, like, we had in our trial, we had people from multiple divisions,
Mm.
and they got kind of like they hooked, like they really liked it.
Yeah.
And then when we needed to make the choice about who gets the full license, we had to pare it back a little bit for the first year. And so that was something that I think I didn't really see that coming, that we would have to tell people, thank you for participating in the trial period. Your input was really important. You're not getting the whole version. We're going to have to wait another budget cycle for that. So I guess it's a good problem to have because that many people wanted it and they were
Yeah.
enthusiastic about it. The business needed to make some hard choices about, was that mission critical for those departments?
And that's where recent developments in the past few months in AI will be consequential for the next year and going forward. Is one of the big news items in January, I think, was when DeepSeek came out and showed, hey, we can basically do what ChatGPT does just at a fraction of the cost.
Yep.
And that's I think for the affordability question for many business owners, it's going to become much more affordable over the coming years. Just implementing AI. So
Yes.
that'll be very important.
Yes.
I'm just curious because if you have gone on your sales team, like again, assisting, do clients ever ask and are they curious? And then is it a conversation starter? Like now, do they want it?
Yeah. So that's
Hey,
a really great
can I buy
question.
this from you?
So there's a couple of answers to that. We have a large portion of our business comes from highly regulated organizations. So think personal health and personal financial information is part of the data that we're handling on their behalf. And so it's their most precious asset with their client. And so with that knowledge, we knew that we were going to run into at least a few customers that were like, no, you
Can't use it.
cannot record any of this stuff for HIPAA and, various data breach concern. So we have several clients that, and right in the outset, we always tell people we have the announcement that happens. We
Okay.
always talk to people about it. We let them know that it is only used for training purposes. It's only used internally and it's only used for note taking that will help we will provide that information back to them. So we have several people that say, no, thank you. And we're not allowed to. So we turn it off for them.
Okay.
And then, with other clients, they are enthusiastic about it. They think it's great because the notes that come back to them are so organized.
Yeah.
It does spark conversation. One person was like, "Oh, I see it says gong." Oh, gong, but they went with whatever, some other one. So gong's been around. Gong is the first big AI note taker. So their large language model is just bigger than everybody else's when it comes to AI note takers.
They started earlier.
They started early, and so that was appealing to us because we felt like it was worth it at this stage to have a larger universe.
Now, you talked about a lot of your clients, medical or highly regulated. What, from an AI standpoint, are you hearing conversations about where people are looking 2 and 3 years down the road and they know they're going to be on a transformational journey with AI?
Oh my gosh. We aren't privy to some of their operational conversations, but I can imagine that AI with claims is very much so happening. We do know that there is a heavy emphasis on their call center areas too of optimizing. In fact, we're attending a call center engineering conference in April because most of our clients have call centers and that's one channel of communication with their customers. And much of the work that we're doing prior to someone, needing to call a customer service agent or inquire about a bill is coming from us. And so the work that we're doing, we have trackers and tracking ability that gives real-time information to our clients so they can schedule and plan and train their representatives in their call centers. So there's this whole world of call centers that we're a part, like a just-in-time kind of deal with call centers that we're a big part of that really supply chain of information. So we're very aware of that in our world. And then on the marketing side, like this is your world, and so on the customer acquisition, probably 75% of the work that we're doing for our clients is post-sale. So it's existing customer communication. It's what's happening with the way that they're interacting with that business. So triggers of events, that kind of thing. Some of it's mandated by federal and state entities that says this thing happened, you have to communicate with them. So that's the bulk of what we do, but we do a ton of work on acquisition side. And so that's just ripe for AI implementations of content creation or even just understanding what is happening over here with your best customers and synthesizing that information so that you're using real-time data to hone in on who are your best customers, what are they doing in the marketplace that suggests that they are in market for your product so that you can be as smart as possible about your marketing budget. And so those are some of the conversations and the implementations that we're considering is, okay, what's the next digital investment for us?
Exactly.
Because we're
to solve for that.
We're so good on the legacy print and mail side of our business. Like it's so buttoned up. It's so advanced. Like that area it's so well organized and so well known And then the other side of digital and marketing and data analytics, we're so good at it, and yet it changes so quickly all the time.
Mhm.
And so there's so much emphasis for us on making sure that we're staying at least a half step ahead if we can.
Yeah.
Yes.
A toe ahead.
I know. We're like, can we just can we at least keep up and be a half a step ahead so that we're anticipating the needs of our clients when it comes to AI?
Yeah.
Or even that if they're implementing, because we also don't necessarily want to overlap, right?
Yes, correct.
So if we're working with these really big companies, like we know that they have probably their own large language models within their organization. And so for us, it's also about adaptability and connectivity, like the integrations that we're able to do to then receive that information that was maybe synthesized through AI. So we're constantly looking for the ways that we can plug in and better understand what they want to do with all that information, because there's no lack of data anymore.
Just what to do with it. Where do I go?
Like 20 years ago, when I was starting out in all this like direct mail world, I would sit down with customers and they'd be like, well, our biggest problem is that there's all this data happening, but we just can't, we're having trouble retaining it. Like, that's not a problem we're having anymore.
No, we have all of it.
Now the problem is how we make sense of all this data.
Yeah, and make decisions, make better
Yes.
decisions from the data.
Or help me make a decision from 3.
Mhm.
You know, like I use the Cheesecake Factory versus Five Guys menu.
Yeah, the menus. Yes.
That's my favorite one. I'm like, I love both of those places, but most of the time when you're in the throes of decision making, you'd prefer a Five Guys menu of options
Oh,
that
absolutely.
you can trust, right? Like, oh, this has been vetted from, like, started out at Cheesecake Factory, and then these are the top
Yeah.
choices.
I never
There you
even
go.
make it to the last couple pages of the Cheesecake Factory menu. I'm like, I can't
It's
can't
fun to
retain
look
it
at.
anymore.
I
Oh
know.
yeah, pretty pictures. Yeah.
Within your role, what would you love to be able to automate or just hand over to AI? And what would you never let an AI do?
I would love AI to synthesize information. I'm going to say this, and I'm like, this is not going to happen, but the matrix of market conditions versus competitor landscape. So we don't spend a ton of time focused on competitors, but it's really, I mean, everybody needs to know what's happening in your industry.
Sure.
And in our industry, there are a few players who are publicly traded that you get a little more information about what's going on by virtue of the fact that they're publicly traded. But most of our competitors are privately held organizations. And so competitor landscape is, we're kind of feeling our way through the dark caves of that information. And so it would be really helpful if there was a way that we could have a little more synthesis of information around competitor landscape and market conditions that are affecting our clients. We have a pretty, we have just as much understanding as anybody else does, but like, what are the key challenges that they're facing, and how does that match up with what's available in the marketplace so that we can make more data-driven strategic decisions about the investments that we're making. We have a ton of data to suggest that we're making the right investments. But yeah, that would be really helpful. Does that answer your question?
And the second part, what would you never want to have AI do?
Customer information,
Yeah.
hands down. I mean and when we first, this was early last year, we implemented an AI use policy within the organization. As I mentioned about all of the compliance that we have to go through to manage the business, that was a number one. Like, you can't put a spreadsheet in there. You can't, no customer information.
Going back though to how you called your mom and you're like, I know what I'm good at, lunch. What about, I mean, how do you foresee AI integrating with just the human connection element of, hey, now we're all on Zooms or Teams and we're not doing those in-person meetings? Does that scare you? Do you feel like it'll still exist?
So interesting you say that. I have had more lunch meetings just in 2025. And the weather's been terrible. So
It's been
the fact that
horrible. We're
I've
in
had
Louisville.
this many in-person meetings in 2025, it's like the switch flipped or something. And I think that we're going to see that pendulum swing. And I think that we're going to, or at least what I'm feeling right now, is that as technology is, and like I'm consuming a ton of content on TikTok for instance, right? Like, am I really connected with what's going on? I'm receiving a lot of information. That human connection, that face to face, is so important for very specific types of communication and interaction. And in our world, professionally, that very much so lines up with those long-term 20-year relationships that we want to have, that we currently enjoy.
Yeah.
And that is our goal, is with every client that they become part of our like trusted advisor partnership, and that they really truly feel that.
Mm.
And so we will continue to look for ways that we can create those opportunities that isn't just lunch.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
though lunch is
Absolutely.
great. But how do we bring people in for tours or create user communities that bring people in to see the physical spaces or to see their work actually producing?
Yeah.
I think that human element and that sense of physicality is going to be even more important as we continue to embed AI into our thinking. The more I use it, though, sometimes, I mean, I was an English major, so writing and composition is like really important to me. I find myself, I'm like, ooh, am I losing my edge?
Oh, like your writing capabilities, you mean?
If
Like,
I'm prompting all the time. So I think it'll be really, really interesting how we also are able to decipher. And I think we will be able to decipher, at least for a period of time, what was AI generated versus what
Human.
isn't. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like, I think
Yeah.
we're going to be able to maybe suss that out a little bit.
I hope
At
so.
least for the
Mhm.
short term. I mean, it's going to get really, really good. But I do think that we're going to be real sharp about it, and maybe even hit a tipping point where the information that I hear from you directly is what I'm going to value it higher
Of course.
than, right? I think we're going to see more of like a hierarchy of value with information that's shared either personally or electronically.
So you mentioned earlier the Crystal
Crystal
knows
knows.
best. Okay, Crystal. I was like, Crystal
Mhm.
knows best. That's not right.
Yes.
And the disc. I mean, so because I know disc, but I don't want to get ahead of myself here. Is that helping not just via the virtual meetings, but also your sales and marketing teams be able to interact at lunch with and have better conversations? How does that play?
Oh my gosh. You can create playbooks. Okay, so here's how it works. If you guys haven't seen this before, it's fascinating. We use the LinkedIn extension for Crystal Knows.
Okay.
So I can go to LinkedIn. So I have like all of my users, and everybody who's part of our user community takes a disc analysis through the application.
Okay.
So we all have those very precise versions. Then I could go to LinkedIn and use my Crystal Knows extension, and I can go to your profile page, and I can go to Connor's profile page, Brad's profile page. And then you guys will be added into my Crystal Knows like deck of people.
Oh,
And so what I could have done prior to this event, as a for instance, to prepare myself, is I could have created what's called a playbook. And so I would add each of you into it, and then it would show me the disc wheel of where you all fit. And then it could even tell me like, oh, what is the purpose of this meeting? Is it sale? Are you selling? Are you influencing? Like, what's going on? And then it will give me prompts and things to think about, because Connor has this type of profile, so he might be responding this way, or like chill out on the chit chat conversation. That's not their thing. They're right.
They
They're
want
an
detail.
architect.
Yeah.
They really want the detail versus, right, like, oh, you're an influencer, Dayna. So
Hi.
you're going to need to,
warm and fuzzy.
yeah, you're going to need to dial that back a little bit and focus more on metrics to bring them along. Yeah. It's wonderful. I love it.
I mean, Dayna, this has been a blast. I could sit here and talk to you for hours. What would you just
Same.
leave from a wisdom standpoint to other CMOs or other leaders in their organization who maybe haven't implemented AI like you have within the company?
Oh my gosh. I think the conversations that are happening at leadership levels, folks are very concerned about security, very concerned about security. And I think right after security comes accuracy,
Okay.
and that if folks get comfortable using AI, that they will not do like the proofreading moments that are necessary. So now you're using an AI assistant, but bad information is getting out because you're not doing the editing step. You're not, right, proofreading what's coming out of that experience. Or and then the third one tends to be like, well, are we going to get AI fatigue? Similar to what we were just talking about. It doesn't feel genuine.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like Dayna wrote something heartfelt or just even, sort of the human nature of it. So I think from a leadership perspective, that's been the tier of concern about adopting. The other part was we were very concerned about customer focused or owning anything that we would put out into the world customer facing versus adopting practices internally. So that would be advice to anybody who's whatever business you're in. If you have a lot of tasks or a lot of your organization is doing maybe repetitive work, look at AI as an opportunity to shore up some of that as an internal application for efficiency purposes. Because wow, I mean, if like for us, that's the next horizon for us. We've been using an agency to help us make the right choices to implement internal AI efficiencies for reporting, for all those tasks to help people be smarter about the next best decision.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that look inside before you look outside, and I think you might find some really great opportunities. Mm-hmm.
That was transcendent advice. I'm like, mic drop. Okay. Well, Dayna, thank you. Where does the audience find you? How can they connect with you?
Oh, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Dayna Neumann. Oh, and it's DaynaNeumann. So just have some
Two
fun
N's.
with all of that. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok. Yeah.
Okay. And
Connect.
then udsolutions.com.
And Dayna Neumann at udsolutions.com.
There we go.
That's right. We have a new website launching. Thank you
Perfect.
so much, Guardian Owl.
Hopefully.
Yay. It's happening.
It's happening soon.
It's a May situation. Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
we're excited. Well, Dayna, thank you so much. Thanks for being a guest.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Connor. Thanks, Jenna.